On this episode of Athletic Training Chat, we have Rob Dicks. I want to thank everybody who suggested that this episode happen. It kind of came about organically via Twitter. A couple recommendations, supported by a bunch of people. Reached out, connected with Rob. He was all for it, and we ended up here at this discussion on mentorship and multitasking. Two things that are extremely interesting to me, but I think apply to so many people in the athletic training profession, no matter where you're at, what you're doing. Rob is incredible, does an unbelievable amount of things at an extremely high level. So this was just such a fun conversation and so much to take away. So we hope you enjoy it. As always, we are brought to you by Mueller Sports Medicine. Please check them out. Can't continue to elaborate how many things they're working on currently to try and help build out the profession of athletic training, support what we do, get us what we need to do the job, and just generally support everything that is athletic training. Without further ado, please enjoy this episode. Welcome to the show, episode of Athletic Training Chat. We are on with Rob Dicks. We got connected up through a lot of suggestion on Twitter that this would be a really good conversation. So I reached out and you were interested, and then I asked what you want to talk about, and our topic is mentorship and multitasking, which I think is going to be fantastic. And we were just talking off camera about how I've got plenty of questions on this, so it will be really good to get in there. Just a little bit of background before I turn it over to Rob. He's been doing this for a while, doing it at a very high level, been to a lot of very high levels, worked as a professor. If we have time, I might ask about this athletic training liaison thing. I think that sounds like a fantastic idea. We've got some version of it, but I like what you guys are doing. Mentees all across the U.S., 40 plus, pulled out of the bio, and also was the 2020 NATA ICSM D3 Athletic Trainer of the Year, which I can only imagine what has gone into that, having being in the D3 setting, but knowing the work that goes into getting that done. So first, congrats on that. But before we jump into the mentorship piece of it, just wanted to turn it over to you to fill in anything else that you'd like to on your background before we get going.
Okay, well, first of all, Joe, man, again, I appreciate you doing this. It's an honor and a pleasure to get on. And likewise, I've been hearing great things about you and what you're doing for the AT community as well.
Appreciate that.
Blessings for all that. But yeah, man, just about 20 years in the game. Started out, knowing what I want to do since high school, really. I think it was probably around the ninth grade. Ninth grade, I knew what I wanted to do. Didn't even know what it was called, to be honest. I called it sports doctor. Right.
There you go.
All I knew was, I was heavily into sports all my life. And I remember watching the NFL game, guy got hurt. I see the guys run out on the field and they check on him and they take him off and they do their thing. So, I've always wanted to be in the medical field. I wanted to be a doctor since, like 6 or so like that. And because of my interest in sports and athletics, I felt like, to do medicine and athletics was a great mesh, and it's been great ever since. So that was my direct line of sight, and I stayed on it, since a young buck, man. And it's paid great dividends. Love what I do, love this profession, love talking about it, love preaching about it, love mentoring, love all things athletic training, I'm for. So.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about, man. So that's what I'm here to talk about today.
So yeah, mentorship. Where to start? I'm going to lead you off with this one. Do you feel like having a mentor is required and or necessary for young professionals, but also, even someone in my position, I'm 10, 11 years into it. Still figuring out. I think I can't remember how long young professional goes. I think it's like 10 or 12. So I'm still in that group, but compared to the fresh grad, not as young of a professional, but, do you think a mentor is required to basically try and figure it out?
Man, that's a great question. And I'll answer it this way. I think it's in our profession, in a lot of professions for starters, but in our profession, I think it is real organic that it happens because a lot of times when you have questions, you're going to ask somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you appreciate that bond between you and that person, it kind of just happens, right?
Sure.
Well, that's how it happened for me, for many, many years. To straight up answer the question, is it necessary? I want to say I sit on the fence. I would like to say no, it's not necessary because it can be done. You can be very successful in the business, in the trade, and not have a mentor and not be a mentor. But I think it's a great tool. I think it's absolutely great. As you know, as well as many others, there's about 3 degrees separation between athletic trainers. They talk about that 6 degrees separation between people in the world, but I mean, with athletic trainers, there's about three degrees separation. And it's funny because you and I sit on that Mutal panel, right?
Yep.
And when I saw your name on there, I'm like, wow, Joe's on that joint. So between me and you, I already knew about 4 or 5 people, at least the names that were on there.
Right.
And then from talking in that first meeting, I realized some of the other people I didn't know, they mentioned people that I do know.
Right.
So, it's a tight-knit group, man. But no, I don't. I absolutely think it's not necessary, but I think it's great. I think if it's something that you use, it only help you, But that's in any profession, to be honest. I mean, you always want to have somebody you can go to and be able to bounce ideas off and be able to ask, tough questions. For me and a lot of my mentees, which is funny, I find myself answering this a lot. I actually have a lot of female mentees too, because there are a lot of females in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people don't know that right off because if you look at it, it does look, and it is male dominated,
Sure.
especially with, higher profile jobs and stuff like that. But in my program, there were only 4 guys. There were 4 guys and 12 women, right? And programs behind me look just like that. So the connection between people in the program, it was so organic that you couldn't really do anything about those relationships. And I found myself later on, I've probably hired in the last 14, 13 years, I think I probably hired about 8 women, and when I do have a job opening, the majority of the applicants are women. So, and people say, well, do you think a male can be a mentor for a woman and vice versa? That mentorship doesn't have any rules, man, no regulations. It can be someone that's been in the game. I can be a mentee to someone that's younger than me.
Sure.
You can be my mentor, because there are always going to be certain things you have in your toolbox that I'm not probably as proficient in, and you can teach those things to me. So it's great, man. I love it. I've been a mentor by trade all my life, starting way back in elementary school. I was always tutoring kids, right? So it's just a passion of mine, and I think it is great. Not necessarily, a necessity, but a huge, huge deal in the athletic training profession.
Agreed. You kind of touched on this, but maybe we can dig in a little bit more. For you, why is it so important, and why has it been such a big part of your career? You mentioned that it's gone all the way back from when you were young, and maybe this is a really good time to ask the question that I did just before we hopped on about I've been in the head role for, now it's coming on 7 years, and always, students throughout my career and whatnot. But I've always wondered, and I've asked educators, if you see somebody who's about to get run over by a train and they are because you've been run over by that train, do you push them out of the way and then pick them up, dust them off, and say, hey, you just got hit by a train. Like, here's what we're going to do next time so we avoid that? Or do you potentially nudge them out of the way and be like, hey, there was a train coming. I'm trying to spare you from it so we can make the system stronger because of it. Now let's watch out for the next one.
Right. So for the first part, again, it's been real organic for me. I was telling Tom and those guys. What day was that? What's the day? Tuesday? I guess yesterday. I was talking to a bunch of folks yesterday, and I told them that, for me, I've never met a stranger, So for me to meet people and talk and share myself, I'm 100% transparent at all times, right? And people gravitate towards that. So usually during or after most of my conversations with people, they want to keep in touch.
Sure.
And that most of the time leads to a mentorship. So it truly happens that organically, right? So but coming up through the ranks, man, through undergrad and all, I had a mentor. It was my director of athletic training, right? But it was a different relationship. He was my teacher. He was my director. He was doing his job. You know what I mean? It wasn't as if I said, hey, Russ, can I get your number so I can call you and text you at any time with questions, right? Not as a student. Right. Now, once I graduated, we'd meet up at conventions or symposiums, and we talk, we catch up, stuff like that. And from time to time, if I had a tough question, he's the guy I would ask, because he's one I trusted. But as far as myself having an external mentor, someone who I didn't have a relationship going through the process, I didn't have one. I didn't have one for, many years, probably up until like year 12 or 13, honestly. Well, that's and then, true. I went to symposium. Yeah, I went to NATA one year, and I met a slew of folks that I had never met in my life, and got into, some relationships with people, just talking about the profession, talking about where we want things to go and all that. And candidly, just started having, conversations with people that I never knew that had, great stature and people looked up to. And again, organically, I found myself going to them with questions for support and, stuff like that. And that in turn created me having some mentors that I could go to. And from that, I met more mentees as well. So that's why it's so important to me. And I've seen the work that has been done to help people to get to where they want to be, right? Especially people of color, because there's really not that many of us in the profession, right? And it's not many of us that go through those educational platforms. So a lot of times, and I get this all the time, I'll meet someone new and they'll be like, man, you're the first Black athletic trainer I've ever met. I'm like, wow. And that's a real deal thing. They go through a program. They never have any counterparts that look like them, right? They never have any constituents that look like them. And they get to the real world situation, and it's rough on them because no one warned them of some of the issues that we go through that may not have happened to other people. You know what I mean? And that's a big deal for me. That's a huge deal for me. Now, I want to make it clear, I mentor folks of all shapes, sizes, and colors. That's not the issue.
Sure.
But there is a true indeed need for folks who are of, the minority of the profession. Great need for that, right? And that's actually something I've been working on for a while as well. And we can talk about that a little bit with my band group. I think I mentioned that to you before. But the second part of the question, right? I think it depends on the person. And it's funny you ask that because it's like, you ask that question and I automatically thought of one person on both sides to that spectrum, right?
Fair.
And so I've been in situations before where I have a mentee that I knew it was coming and I knew it would break them.
Okay.
Right? So you got to know your mentees.
Sure.
I knew it would break that person. So I grabbed that person by the shoulder, Joel, and I just eased them on back. I said, hey, let me tell you what's about to happen right now. And we had that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's another situation where I had a mentee that needed that.
Sure. Yeah.
And to be real with you, I actually pushed them into the train. Just being honest, because
I hadn't thought about it like that before.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, that's good.
And again, you find out their personality by constantly sharing because the one thing I found out is that when they need you, they're going to call.
Sure.
And, having 40 plus, I lost count. One day I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write them down, like real, because I want to know, right? But knowing them, right? Getting to know them and who they are and what they want to do in life and their potential too, right? You got to know when to push and when to pull. So with that person, I'm like, this is what's gonna help get that person to that next level in their train of thought, is to say, you know what? Life ain't always great. Crap happens. I won't say something else, but crap happens. And I get up, I dust myself off, and guess what? I'm okay. And that person needed that. So yeah, sometimes you pull them back and sometimes you push them forward. And to be real, the person you pulled back the first time, once you got them prepared, next time you might want to give them a little push.
Sure.
So it depends on the situation.
Yeah, one thing I tried this year, which it didn't work out as well as I hoped because of COVID, just the whole thing, and I wasn't around as much as I only had 2 students working direct with me. Is I asked them, what's your preference? How do you think you're going to learn better? And I just took that into account. That doesn't mean that's all I'm going to ever, listen to, but at least I knew what they thought was going to be more impactful for them. And we didn't get to, unfortunately, to all the things we wanted to, but
but you bring up a great point though. Even though it was out of your hands and COVID came in and screwed up the situation, there are going to be some times where we find out, you know what? I pushed them into the train and it flopped. It didn't work, right? And that's when you pick them up, you help dust them off, and you get them back on track. And that's where you as a mentor have to tell yourself, you know what? We ain't gonna always make the right choice. That's just life.
Right.
But this is one thing, man. I got so many different mantras, right? So one of the things that I spoke of, and it came out so, I know I use the word organically a lot, but it's true. But it came out so easy. I was talking to some YPs one time, and I just told them, I was like, a lot of times when we get hit hard, the first thing we think about was, damn, man, that was tough. And then for the last few years, you hear people talking about taking L's. So yeah, we take L's. But the way I want to preach to them about those L's that we take, it's not a loss, it's a lesson. It's not a loss. Yeah, it's an L. Like, yeah, man, I got that L today. But use it as a lesson, not a loss. You're going to get better and build off that. Because if you just look at it as a loss, it's like, Well, we were taught in athletics, as a loss, you flush it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We lose on Friday night, we flush it, we got to get ready for the next week. Right. I don't want to do that. I want you to lose. I want you to understand why you lost. I want you to analyze what you could have done better and use that as a stepping stone. That's a lesson to get better. So mentors can learn from that as well.
I saw somebody, just as you mentioned that, I like that. They had it this morning. They were taking some big exam. I don't remember what it was for, but they were either going to pass or they were going to learn. It wasn't fail. It was learn.
There you go.
And man, that ties in. And I've had this conversation, and a couple of people I really respect on the Mindset book by Carol Dweck, that fixed versus growth mindset, and using the learning even from when it didn't go well to figure out how to get back and go through it. I like that a lot.
That's life, man. We got to learn from stuff, because we ain't gonna get it all right. We're human. We're supposed to make mistakes. We're supposed to make that mistake so we can teach somebody else how not to make that same mistake. But you know what? They're gonna make their own set of mistakes. And it's funny because even with, here go that tangent we were talking about. I'm a father, right? I got 3 kids. And it's funny because, I got 3 at home. I got about 400, on campus.
Sure.
But even when I talk to my campus kids about what type of dad I am, right? What type of father I am, it's funny to them because they see me one way, and then they see me with my kids and they feel like, I'm still that same guy. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And ironically enough, my oldest daughter is actually graduating from the college this year. She just finished up, right? Congrats. So appreciate it. So she's 22, right? and they see how I father her. And it's funny because they're like, man, you'd have told me the same thing. I'm like, yeah. And I'm not going to tell my kid not to do something she wants to do if that's what she wants to do. Because she's got to learn that lesson, not take that L, the loss, but she's got to learn that lesson on her own, right? That's how we learn. Because dad can tell you all day long, well, you know what? When I was 22, I tried that. It didn't really work. And, it hurt me for a while. And I was down and out for a minute. So I don't want that to happen to you. I don't father that way. I say, well, here's what's good that can come out of it. Here's what's bad that can come out of it. And here's what's indifferent. And then you make your choice. And if you have to make a lesson out of it, we'll come back and we'll talk about it. If you win, it's all good. And that's it. But that's how I father, and at home and at work.
There you go. That makes a lot of sense. Swinging back around to the mentorship thing, looking at it from the mentee lens, and I'm going to go back to something you said about, that you hadn't really found a mentor till maybe 12, 13 years into the profession. That's a conversation I've had with a lot of people, because I feel like I'm very much in my own personal way with that, is I don't have, that one mentor yet, and still trying to figure out who that could potentially be. Maybe I just haven't met them. And so that's always a question I have is, what should the mentee be looking for in a mentor?
Oh man, that's
should it be somebody that is in a position that they want to be in, or has been, or what does that look like? And then kind of also within that, can you kind of piece mentorship together because of the world we live in, and you can listen to all these brilliant minds and get all this information so much easier, obviously, than when you were younger in your career. Or even I joke with my students, when I was still in college, you had to have a .edu to get on Facebook, because that's all that it existed as.
Right.
And I thought it was dumb, which is why I don't invest in tech, because I was wrong completely. But yeah,
that lesson.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just shy away from it is probably better. The mood swings would be too big with the profits and losses. What should a mentee be looking for in a mentor?
Man, that's a great question. And you know what's funny? I wish that question was asked a lot more often, right? So a mentee should be looking for someone that they feel like is honest. Because here's the thing. You don't know until you know, right? You don't know if somebody's lying to you until you find out they lied.
Sure.
You don't know if someone is being dishonest to you until you find out they've been dishonest, right? But if you're talking to a person and based on the things that they're saying to you, it sounds like that person might have some ideas, some information that can help you build your career and stay up to date and be sane, for one, right? Especially through this COVID situation. But if there's an automatic, here we go again, organic gel between you and that person, it's probably going to be a good relationship to be a mentor and mentee, to be honest. Now, here's the hard part. I think we're finding out everyone don't want to be a mentor, and that's okay. That's why earlier I was saying it's not a necessity, right? It's great if it happens, but it's not a need, right? So you have some people in the world that are very intelligent. They're very smart. I had some teachers, going through, undergrad, going to grad school mostly. I had some teachers that were very, very intellectual, but they struggled to teach.
Sure.
Right? So it's like
not what you say, what's heard, kind of one of those concepts.
There you go. And a lot of times, because the information they're pushing your way, it comes second nature to them. They feel like you can grasp it like that.
Sure.
That's really not how it works. Again, and I've been a teacher all my life, right? And I've been teaching at the college now for about 15 years as well. So I understand if I have 26 students in my class, I got potentially 26 ways of learning. Truthfully, every single person can learn in a different manner, right? So that means that if I'm not paying attention, I can't be an effective and efficient teacher for all 26 all at the same time. I got to figure out, and it's tough. Nobody says it's going to be easy.
Right.
I got to figure out how to reach all 26 of my students, right? I'm going to get off on this tangent, but I'm going to get back real quick. I hate when a teacher says, you know, everyone failed my test, so none of y'all were listening. Well, everyone failed the test probably because you didn't give the information out properly.
Right.
If everybody failed the test, that's the teacher's fault. And I'll battle any educator in the world right now on that. That's your fault. Because everybody shouldn't have failed your test.
Right.
Right. And so that's kind of the way I base the way I push my information across is what are they taking away from it? Right. So in the mentorship part of it, it's how can I help that person be the best they can be? And what I do for Jim may not work for Bob or Jane or Ronald or Tyrone or, by whoever. So it's like you got to switch it up each time based on that person's personalities. Like I said earlier, sometimes I push them into the train. Sometimes I pull them away. Sometimes I have to lay everything out from A to Z. Sometimes I can say, you got 3 choices. You got to pick one. And it depends on how that person responds to that. So for a mentee to pick a mentor, it's got to be, the relationship has to be there, right? You gotta believe in what that person's selling. And it is a sale, right? Sure. And then there's got to be a respect, a mutual respect, right? Because if there's no respect, they're not going to listen to a damn thing you say.
Absolutely.
Now they're probably still going to ask for your opinion, but they've also asked 5 or 6 other people. And that's another way. Here's the God honest truth that a lot of mentors don't know. We're constantly graded by our mentees sometimes because they're going to ask 6 people and they're going to look at all 6 responses. If the 5 on the left look alike and yours looks totally different, they're going to be like, oh, I might not ask them no more questions. But here's the real truth for the mentee as well. Just because my answer is different doesn't mean it's wrong for what you need.
For sure.
Because that might be what you needed at that time. That's where the respect comes in. Yep. You gotta understand and respect that I'm always going to have your back. I'm always going to try to do what's best for you. Right. I had a mentee the other day that told me when they called another mentor about an opportunity they want to take up, the mentor told them they were going to help them. Right. And when that time came for help, they kind of shooed them away. And that could break a person. Right. So that person was hurt. And I told them, like, hey, don't worry about it. We got to get ready for what's going on tomorrow. Right. We got to prep. We got to prep for that. So all night long we prep. Right. Needless to say, that person got the gig, so everything worked out. But you got to be aware of the information somebody's giving you and the vibe they're giving off. Mm-hmm. Because if they weren't able to come in and help you at that opportune time, then you got to check the reason why, because it might have been a valid excuse, right? Sure. But at least reach out. Like for me, if I'm going through something and Joel texts me, Joel be like, Rob, hey, man, I'm looking at this job, man. It seemed like a great idea. Hey, but, man, I don't know what they're going to ask me in the interview process. You think we can run through a mock interview? For sure, Joe. Let's get it done Tuesday at whatever time. Yep. If something happens between that time to where I can't get to Joel, I got to say, Joe, hey, man, we got to reschedule. If we don't have time, bro, I deeply apologize. Like, you just got to let them know that's that respect. Mm-hmm. I have to respect you enough to let you know something came up, we can't do it. And without that respect, without the mutual respect, without the vibe being a cool vibe, like it probably ain't gonna work out. Right. You know what I mean? And I get them a lot of times. People ask me like, well, how can I be a mentee of yours? And I simply say, just ask. Like, that's all you got to do. And it could be, because what you don't want to do is we both assume, you're having a great conversation and you're like, man, I'm still looking for a mentor, man, somebody I can bounce ideas off. And I'm like, yeah, here goes some questions you might want to ask. I'm gonna give you all that information. But if I never get asked, then I'm not gonna assume, well, you might need my help one day. You feel me?
Sure. No, I'm with you. Yeah, I've listened to a bunch of different people on, that mentor-mentee relationship, reaching out, and Tim Ferriss is a guy I really like listening to, and he's got a bunch on that because that guy is connected to literally everybody. But just like him going, and he's talking, and I mean, I think it rings true for everybody. He's talking about reaching out to that CEO, the one that, you got to provide some sort of value in how you're asking, and just going and saying, hey, will you be my mentor? And then I just want information. Like, that doesn't quite get it done. Where, if you're going in with specific and you've proven you've done some of your own work and you're just up to a point where you just can't go any further. So I think that
I like, and that's a great point. So I want to push out to folks, there's a difference between networking and mentorship.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Yep.
For instance, I have a guy, I got a story for everything. I got a guy that I began mentoring a long time ago, right? And it wasn't even the night of the story I'm about to tell you. So I was actually at, I think it was in Vegas. First time I was in Vegas for NATA. And I met, somebody's friend of a friend of a friend, And so we got into a conversation, and the guy ended up telling me he wanted to work in the league. He says, "Yeah, I want to work for an NFL team." I'm like, okay, cool. All right, well, why you want to do that? And he gave me all his whys and all that. And I said, well, did you join PFATs yet? Have you talked to anyone? I gave him my whole little spiel about, the way I got into the NFL, and how it didn't happen at first, and then it happened, and then I realized it wasn't for me at the time, and all this stuff. Sure. And then so I was like, how bad you want it? He's like, man, like, that's my ultimate goal. I said, well, how much networking have you done? I don't like talking to people. I'm like, wait, flag on the play. Like, what you mean you don't like talking to people? Like, that's what we do. He's like, yeah, but I'm learning. I'm getting better. I said, okay. And I told him, I explained, well, if it's tough for you to network, it's gonna be tough for you to get to that level.
Yep.
You gotta know somebody. And so I said, all right, look, you down for a game, right? And then his buddy, who's a mentee of mine, started smiling. He was like, you gotta listen to him, right? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna point somebody out in this room, and I want you to go get that number. I want you to go introduce yourself, talk to them, because it was a social with all athletic trainers. So, I said, I want you to end up getting their number and tell them you want to network with them and stuff like that. And I don't know. So I said, all right, I picked somebody out. I said, go, that guy over there in the blue shirt, go over there and, talk to him, introduce yourself, and come back with his number. We battled for like 10, 15 minutes. He wouldn't do it. And I was like, all right, I pull my phone out, call the number, and he's looking at the guy. The guy answers the phone. Hey, man, what's going on? Hey, Rob, how you doing? I'm good. Hey, man, yeah, I noticed you in some of those meetings today, man. And you at the social? Yeah. All right, well, let's link up tomorrow. Just like that, right? Hang the phone up. He's like, wait, you already knew that person? I'm like, yeah, I do. That's the assistant athletic trainer for the Seattle Seahawks. But because you didn't go talk to him, you don't have his number now. He's like, oh, but it's that easy.
Right.
And
most of us don't bite.
Right. And it's like, folks look at the high profile jobs as the end all be all. And that's okay. If that's your goal, that's okay. Right. But if you say that's what you want to do, you got to put in work to do it. And if you can't simply go talk to someone, it's going to be tough, Needless to say, that guy, he's doing well now. He's head AT at he's back in secondary. He's at a high school now, but he did some good work at a couple colleges. But he's doing well. He's better. He's talking to people now. So
I mean, it takes something. I would have been the same way early. Just I'll just keep going through and doing my own thing. But I've had so many of those, like, the connections that have helped me in my career. I mean, that was my last two jobs were because A, a coach called for me once, and B, just because I happened to have spent a little bit of time where I'm currently at as a
Yeah.
part-time, made a decent enough impression that they brought me back super young, filling a head time role. But yeah, I now, I still get a little hesitation, and I'm not ever, opposed to some liquid encouragement to help me get
Hey.
there. But hey, I will have a conversation with anybody that'll have a conversation
Right.
now. Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
and I knew he wasn't going to talk to him, but that was part of the game we were playing.
yep.
All I want to point out to him is you never know who it is.
Right.
It could
Oh
be
man,
the CEO. Yeah.
you want to circling all the way back to the Mueller panel.
Right.
Mueller is literally 2 hours away from where I work and live.
Wow.
Like that, they're that far away. I drove by that place my entire life when I was growing up, had no clue it was there. I went to school 30 minutes away from him, had no clue it was there. It was St. Louis, whenever it was in St. Louis, 5 years ago or whatever it was. Totally unrelated conversation with a colleague I work with now, talking to Mueller about something. And now, well, not COVID related, but I go down there at least a couple times a year, hang out, talk shop, and you just never know. It's allowed me to do so many things just because we had a conversation.
One conversation.
So crazy.
Yep. And that's how it works though.
Yep.
One conversation. You don't know who the person is until you meet them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the worst they can say? Get out of my face.
I mean, that's selfishly this whole podcast thing is, again, how would I ever get to meet all these people, other than if we end up at the same national convention, which
true,
you never know.
True.
I don't know. Maybe we would have never connected. I mean, the Mueller thing now, but I'm glad we have.
No doubt.
I have one more thing on mentorship, and then we can make sure we got everything else that you want to cover. Is there is a school of thought out there, and I'm stealing this from Tim Ferriss and a bunch of other people, but I think it's kind of unique as well. When you look at within the mentorship realm, is you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
How do you see that kind of fitting in, to this mentorship puzzle, or for lack of a better description?
Well, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier. Most people who do dabble in the mentorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mentees have more than one mentor, and that's okay, right? That's a good thing. And that means that they're showing some likeness of a few different people, right? And it works out for them, in the positive, in the fact of, like I mentioned earlier, if they have an issue, they're going to ask all 5 people. And they might get back the same exact, responses from all 5 people, depending on the situation. Or they're going to get 5 totally different responses. But if all 5 are positive, you know what we just did? Brainstorm.
Sure.
That's all we did, right? And I think that's great, right? I think people need more than one mentor. I think you need about 4 or 5 mentors at least, honestly. And I mean, there's no number, you know what I'm saying? The more the merrier, right? But you're right. The people that you spend most of that time with are gonna end up being, they're gonna fall in the role of a mentor or mentee, and that mentorship, or you can have a family of mentors, right? Like there's one mentee of mine. Some of my real good friends are also mentors of that person.
Okay.
Right. So it's like a little family, and we'll get on a group text, and we'll chop it up for the sake of just helping that one person. And it's all love, Like I said earlier, man, there are no rules, there are no regulations. This mentorship thing, it's old. It ain't nothing new, right? We've been asking people for their ideas for, since the day of the dog, right? So it's not new. It's just that I think more people are getting woke for it, and they're understanding that it is a thing that helps out, right? So real quick, I'm a plug. This is my band pen, right?
Okay.
So I wanted to create a space where men who didn't have men to look up to or be able to talk to could come in and bounce ideas off each other. And again, I mentioned a little bit earlier that there's a huge need for that in the minority groups, the black and the brown and the yellows and the reds and all that. Now, Again, I mentor people of all shades of colors, right?
Sure.
That's not an issue. Anyone can join the band club, right? The band men group. But there's a huge need for some people to get in a group where they feel safe to express themselves. And that's what some of these groups are for, right? And you're on Twitter, so you see a lot of the groups on Twitter, and
Yep.
some people frown at that stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Let's get out of our own butts, right? And let's realize and understand that it's okay to have a group on the side of people that look like you, talk like you, act like you, and you want to go in and be and feel safe and express your problems with those people and get some positive feedback, right? So it's okay that Latinx has a group.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay that Black and brown folks have another group. Ain't there again? There's no rules of it, right? It's okay that I have one of my assistants. She's Asian, right? They're trying to get some groups together, right?
Sure.
And we need that, right? And then at the end of the day, when all those groups can get together and form one big group, now we live in life.
Absolutely.
Now we're living life. And all of that starts from mentorship. I started this because I love fostering relationships with people.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, with people. And then I love fostering relationships with people like me.
Sure.
And then I love fostering relationships with people like me that have issues like me. See what I'm saying? So I went from fostering relationship, fostering with men that look like me. That's where it came from. And I hadn't shared this publicly at all. Anybody that might be following my band Twitter account, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how many people know about this, but so I had started trying to get on the social media game. I'm kind of new to social media. First of all, I've been on stuff like I had a Twitter for the longest, but now I post a little bit.
I
Right?
just jumped in with the pandemic and tried to get a little more involved. So I'm totally with you. I've had it for years.
Right.
Just recently got going on it.
Right. So, I'm still kind of new with the Twitter stuff, but I wanted to push some things out through band just to show people what it is and what's going on. Just load up some pictures maybe. So I opened an IG account and I opened a Twitter. Man, it wasn't 24 hours before I got hate on Twitter. And all I did, Joel, was put a picture of the logo and the mission. So band men, band, bold, aspiring, noble, distinguished. That's what type of men we are. We're none,
Mm-hmm.
we're transparent, right? We're noble, we're highly educated, we're about the people, about doing right. And then men, right? Talking about mentorship, encouraging, and enlightenment, right? That's all I put on Twitter. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't 24 hours. To some person jumped on and wanted to tell me what I should be pushing out.
Sure.
I should be talking about this. I should be talking about, here we go with another good old boy men's group. And I'm like, and I told this person, first of all, you don't even know what I'm about. You don't even know me.
Right.
I
Yeah.
said, what you
Right.
should have done, you could have asked, what is band men?
Sure.
Because I did have, so some people knew it was me. So I got DMs on my personal account from some people that I met on Twitter. And they said, hey, bro, what's that? And I told them. And I got a lot of love, right?
Mm-hmm.
This person jumped on and bash, and then had a co-signer, which I told both of them. They wanted me to, why are we talking about men who already run the profession and yada, yada, yada. Well, I let them know. I said, well, actually, ma'am, I'm a mentor of about 20 or 30 women. So I've been pushing women since I got into this profession.
Sure.
I've hired this many women. Not that I need to be, giving you reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing,
Right.
but just to put you on notice, this is not what you thought it was. And
Right.
instead of bashing, you could have asked. Well, she says, well, I don't follow groups like that, so I didn't have a way to ask you. I said, yeah, you could have asked me the same way you bashed me. You jumped on and made a post about how bad it was. Your initial post could have been, hey, what is this? And then I could have answered you. And that's the thing. That's what's wrong with the world today. People have perceptions and they assume without question. If you want to know something, ask. That's how I've been taught. I've been raised.
Yep.
If I want to know something, ask. If I go to my mom and say, Mom, why A, B, and C? She now reserves the right to say, none of your business. Right? But I don't just jump up and say, Mom, you shouldn't have, pap, right there. It's gonna get hit right there, right in the mouth. So, and that's the problem with people's perception of what people should be doing. Oh, so now I'm wrong because I'm not like you, right?
Right.
But mentorship and bonding and group togetherness is never going to work collectively until we start asking those questions and understanding what it's there for. Like, who bashes mentorship?
Yeah, it's such a, I mean, this is one, coming from a different side of it, obviously being a man, but then white, and just finally, I say finally, understanding and beginning to comprehend what privilege that brings in a lot of different ways through the course of this year, because of obviously multiple things that have happened outside of COVID. But yeah, like, you're in your position, and you're a man, like that. You can't really do a whole lot else to work with that other than continue to push positive things forward. And that's even what I've kind of looked at is, I am where I'm at, and I can't necessarily change me physically. I mean, yes, that's a whole other thing, but
right.
But not going to. But can I use this platform in place to further and push the other positive things along, hence the group? Like, now, when you explain all of it, man, helping people see that bigger picture of, the good old boys club, which is a whole other thing for another day, or just the other diversity and inclusion issues, to help drive those forward by helping mentor and guide younger professionals. Man, I think that's being extremely positive, and using your platform and your place, and all the credibility and everything that you've done and brought up. That's some powerful stuff.
And that's what it's about, man. Like I was telling my assistant this the other day, because now, based on our conversation, he wants to do more, and do stuff, and I love it. And I told him, I was like, with where I am in my career, in the profession, the things I've done, the things I've been afforded to do, the blessings I've had, the great experiences, the great people I've met, no one would question me at all if I just did my job and shut the hell up. No one would say, you need to do more. No one would say any of that, right? But because, like you say, I try to use the platform or the experiences or the relationships I have to empower other people, to me, that's me. That's who I am.
Right.
I'm just living life. And a lot of people think, oh, that's such a great thing. And, we're behind you. I love the support. I love the love. Like, and I don't say this as it's not an ego or nothing. It's not hard, honestly. You're talking about talking to people. That's what I do, right?
And you're trying to understand people before you make that judgment. Like, man, I made that argument, when you talk about the world today.
That's it.
If we could just pause, self-reflect before you go and start throwing out darts, because you got to be careful, because your house is probably made of some glass too, that you got, none of us are complete saints. Like, we all have our things, but just to go and demonize things, just to demonize them, like, are we really helping ourselves?
It's a shame, man. And I wish I didn't have stories like these, but it's life, right?
Yep.
And there's one time, and I always say, you know what? I pray to God that person never needs my help, because there's going to be a conflict for me.
Sure.
That's the type of person I am. Because, you know, and I was telling somebody this story just yesterday. I'm human, right? I can be petty. I don't like to be. I wish I never have to be.
Yep.
But the way I felt attacked, if that person in the future asked for my help, not even knowing who I was in that sense of the conversation.
Right.
But if you needed my help later on, I mean, as much as I love helping people, I probably have to decline. And it's because, like, you showed me who you were in the beginning. That first impression showed me exactly who you were. And I had this happen with me with a professor at the college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a situation happened, and without asking me what happened, they assumed what they heard was true, and they went off and started this big blunder, which actually flopped on them, because when it got to the last person, they looked at him like, yeah, right. Like, I know that guy. He's been here way longer than you. You know, there's no way it happened that way. I didn't even have to speak.
Right.
Right. Now, I didn't have that sense of, because I was pissed. I ain't gonna lie. I was pissed. And this is what I tell people. You see me pissed, Joe, it's gonna be for about 2 or 3 minutes, because I get over it. Because I feel like if I stay pissed off at something you did to me, I give you that power. I allow you to control me now. And I hate that. So I won't do it.
Working out.
Yeah. I will not do it. So I was pissed for about 2 or 3 minutes, right? And then I told someone in my office, I said, I guarantee you that person gonna need me before I need them.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it wasn't 3 weeks later. It wasn't but 3 weeks later. I got an email. Hey, Rob, I was wondering if you could help me with something. The other day I was pulling a tree out of the back of my truck.
Yep.
And I fell and hurt my knee. Right? And this is what kills me too in our profession. You know, you got these people like this. And I was wondering if you would check my knee out before I set up an appointment with a doctor and waste money.
Yeah, and I'm with you. We could get into a whole conversation about how that relationship.
That's why I'm gonna stop right there, because
with coaches and stuff too. Yeah, I'm in the middle of some of that. I hear you. Moving on to multitasking, because I think this is such a unique thing, and I've seen and read and heard, and you know what is possible and is not possible. What is your take on it? Obviously, you know, being in your head role, all the other things you do, kids, you know, anybody who's just listening, if you were to hop on and just watch any of the video of this, we were talking about it before. I mean, there's 2 sets of drums in the back, plus a bunch of audio visual stuff. You're saying, you know, you're busy and involved with the church. Is multitasking actually feasible, and to do it at a high level, in your opinion?
The simple answer, yes.
Okay.
That's the simple answer. Right. The how. The answer is simple. The how is not so simple. Right. So, well, it's simple in a sense. Like for me, I'll speak on what I do and what works for me. Okay. And I ain't gonna take up too much of the time, because I can take the rest of this time to just name all the hats I wear. But let's start here. Assistant athletic director, director of athletic training, director of compliance, adjunct professor, safety council committee, administrative council, student success task force, student engagement task force, and I advise Black Male Initiative and Black Student Union. So that's just 10. I'm gonna stop there. That's Perfect. 10 just out of my office. That's not even outside of LaGrange College. So it's something. But what I do is, and it's funny because I speak on this yearly. A buddy of mine, he usually does an EBP symposium, which I guess we're not going to be doing no more. But I go down to Columbus and I speak every year, and that's my topic. You know, how do I juggle all that? And the number one word I'm going to use is compartmentalize. You got to have a box for everything you do. And I tried my best to not have one box spill into the other one, right? But that is tough. So some of my boxes have a little trap door, right? So because my assistant athletic director box has a trap door on both sides between athletic training and compliance,
Yep.
right? Because I might be in one meeting and I speak from all three hats, right?
Yep.
But growing up, time management was huge, right? For me, because like I told you, I was always in the sports. I was always in athletics. I was a nerd, right? I was in the National Honor Society. I was in the National Foreign Language Society. I was in a literary club. I was in a drama club. So I always did stuff out. Man, listen, I never went straight home after school.
Apparently.
Never, never, right? And it's just something I just, it came natural to me. I knew where I needed to be when I need to be there. And once I got to that place, that's the only thing that mattered, right? So if I was at my my poetry reading practice, right? I used to recite poetry and compete. If I'm at poetry practice, all I'm thinking about are the poems that I'm working on. If I'm at drama, all I'm thinking about is the play that we're working on. If I'm at chorus practice, all I'm thinking about is the song. And for some people, that's tough. For me, like I like the excitement and I like the distraction to go from one thing to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm in zone B, I just left zone A alone. Like I like that, right? But the thing for me that works is I just compartmentalize it all. And when I get to work in the morning, I usually do, it depends on the day and depends on what's going on.
Sure.
But in the beginning of fall, I'm an athletic trainer first. Because until we get all this information from all these new student athletes, they can't do a thing.
Right.
So from about 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., that's all I'm working on, trying to make sure they get that stuff right.
Yep.
And then lunch is usually a working lunch, right? I usually got a sandwich or I bring something, and I got this desk that I let up, so I'm standing up. My computer is up on this riser.
Yep.
I'm standing up, typing, eating, yada yada yada. You know, this year's been totally different because it's been a lot of Zoom.
Right.
But you know, that lunch period that will take up some of my compliance work.
Okay.
Right? You know, if I got transfers coming in, I have documents and sheets. Man, Google Sheets and Google Docs are my best friend. Because now, if I decide, which I don't do usually, but if I decide to pull something up from home and work on it, I got it right there.
Yep.
Right. But that's the other thing. Once that time hit where I leave my office, I close the door and I jump in my car, works at work. Works at work. Now, I tell people, you know, don't get it twisted. If a kid calls me with an emergency, right, something that's valid, yeah, I'm going to answer and talk to them and work that problem out. But I tell my student athletes all the time, the first meeting, 8 a.m., 8 p.m., that's your window. Because I have a family at home, right?
Yep.
Now, you know, some hear it and some don't, and some still will send that text at 10:55. Now, I'm not going to respond until 8 a.m. the next morning unless it's an emergency.
Sure.
But those boundaries, man, we got to set those boundaries. And me setting all those boundaries have helped me with juggling all my things that I got to multitask. And that's it. It's really that easy, you know? Well, I say easy. It's really that simple, but you know,
Sure.
you gotta get used to it.
Yeah, I think that's even more impressive even now, just with how fast paced things come at you. Like it's so easy to get drawn into your email and then
No doubt.
get work done.
No doubt.
I'm
And
with you there.
some of the athletic training committees and boards I'm on now, it's about to get a little testy.
Yeah. No, I think that's perfect and really, really good advice. Anything else around mentoring and multitasking that you want to cover that we didn't get to?
No, you know, the biggest pieces that, you know, just in case somebody didn't want to listen to the whole slew of things we talked about, you know, big takeaways is there's no right or wrong. You know, I mean, yeah, you can say there's a blueprint when it comes to fostering relationships. This is how you can do that, but there aren't any rules to the game,
Sure.
right? there's no such thing as having too many mentees, nor having too many mentors. You're not going to always get it right, right? Even in multitasking, it's easy to leave something out sometimes.
Yep.
And I'd be friggin' lie if I tell you that I've never forgotten something.
Right.
Usually it's not something so big, like, I meet all my deadlines. Now that's
Absolutely. Yep.
unfortunately, like I said, I was a nerd. Well, I'm still a nerd, kind of. But I'm that guy, man, in college. When I got the syllabus on day one, I saw there was a paper due at midterm. Oh, I knocked that buddy out first week. Because I knew I wanted my time to do what I wanted to do.
Yep. No, you're better at that than me. But yeah.
Listen, it wasn't easy, but I'm like, man, that's what I'm here for.
Right.
And so I had a lot of other things in my back that if I didn't do it, like there's so many dominoes that could have gotten knocked down. I applied that pressure to myself.
Yep.
I was blessed to go. I got 2 degrees. I got 6 years of higher education. Didn't pay a dime for anything. Right? Blessed. And I appreciate that. But I felt like I would be throwing that all away had I failed, right? Or if I didn't really try to live up to the potential that I put on myself.
Yep.
Because, where I'm from, mom and dad couldn't afford college. So if I didn't get scholarships and grants, I wasn't going.
Sure.
Like it wasn't happening. First generation college student, right? It wasn't happening. So I applied that pressure to myself because I knew I wanted better out of life. So I always tried to do stuff on the front end. And because of that, now I'm able to juggle all those things, because if I had a conference deadline to get my eligibility verification in, my commission would always tell me, he's like, Rob, your stuff is always a week early. And it's purpose though, because if I send it a week early, if I get a kid that comes in late, or if I forgot something, I can fix that real quick and send it to them. Now they don't have to look over my entire list. They just plop that one piece in there.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
So, that's why I do that stuff like that.
It makes a lot of sense. Sometimes too much. Just got to make it happen.
I know, right? I know. If only.
Yeah, right. Well, before we wrap up, the athletic training chat questions. You ready for them?
Bet. Let's go.
All right. Where do you see the athletic training profession going in the next 5 to 10 years?
So 5 to 10 years. Let me tell you what I would love to see.
Perfect.
For the next 5, I'd love to see more diversity in the profession. I'd love to see more diversity at the table, right? I'd love to see more programs, right? I just got named CETA EDAC chair, District 9. And, one of the things that I'm going to try to talk about and get pushed is something that myself and a lot of other people have been asking or trying to get answers for. We want to get some more programs built up, especially some HBCUs, right? Right now, I know. Right now, Bethune-Cookman has the only program in the HBCU realm, and we want to get that changed. We want to get that increased. 5 years, I want to see more. I say more. I'm gonna call it what it is: better programming at our symposiums, and that's statewide, district-wide, and nationally. I mean, you got to look at it this way. I've been in it almost 20 years, and every year I get that packet, and those courses, they look the same, right? Now, I'm not saying that we got to switch the whole game up, because some stuff does stay the same.
Sure.
And we just add to it. But there are a lot of new things that I think we could possibly be talking about, right?
Yep.
I'd love to see a lot more YP involvement. And I know NATA and BOC is working as well. They're trying to get some YP committees and doing some stuff, but I'd love to see a little bit more of that, because that's who's going to be running it 10 years from now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, I want to see us start that now within that 5-year mark, So 10 years from now, we can look at it, we can look back, and I'll be like, Joel did the damn thing, you know. Joe's running, whatever committee, right? And to me, that'd be great. But I think that the board and the association, we got to put more emphasis on that, and we got to push towards that. We got to push that narrative.
Yep.
Because as long as we keep saying, "Hey, you guys, we want you to volunteer. We want you to do this. We want you to do that." If we just send out 1 or 2 emails to say we want you to do something, a lot of people are not going to move on that.
Right.
So I think we need to push a little bit harder. So that's 5 years, 10 years. I say everything that I just said. I want to be able to say some new things 10 years from now.
Sure.
And I say that purposely because in the past, the things I just named, we were naming back then.
Right. No,
and we're still trying to get there. You feel me?
Yep.
So yeah, that's my vision for the next 5 to 10.
I like it. If you could go back and give yourself some advice as a young athletic trainer, first off, when would that be? If you could set kind of the timeline, and then what would that advice be?
Wow. Okay. So I would probably go back to 2007. And I picked that year because that's the year, I think that's the year I took over here, right? I was still young and I was still trying to figure it out. And the advice I would give myself is the same advice I give a bunch of my mentees now. You're not there to get it all right all the time. That's not the job, right? If that were the case, we all would have MRI units. We all would have X-ray units.
Mm-hmm.
We all would have any other diagnostic tool that doctors use to be able to confirm or deny whether an injury occurred, right?
Sure.
For a diagnosis. Because I think when we're younger, and especially when we're young and in charge, man, we feel like if we're wrong or if we can't figure it out, like that's bad. No, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening, the advice I would give myself back then, later on I found out that if I sit down, relax, take a deep breath, and go from first to worst, I cover my boundaries, right? And I let people know, all right, here's what I think it could be. And it could be either A, B, or C. This is on the minor end, this is on the major end. Because I think a lot of times that can freak some young people out. And, it freaked me out. I had a kid that during the game, he hurt his knee. I test him out, do my on-field eval, get him up. We walk off the field. I get my off-the-field eval going, and everything pretty much checks out okay. Feels like capsular sprain. Even my doc checked him out right there on the sideline, and we agreed. That's why it didn't hurt me too bad. But that was the first official big-time deal in that moment that I had in charge. Kid had torn his ACL. And I beat myself up for a while about it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, there's no way in the world I could have known that, right?
Sure.
Because what happened was, and this was a special case, it tore, but it wrapped around the PCL.
Interesting.
That's why I didn't get a Lockman.
Huh.
That's why I didn't get an anterior drawer. Because it wrapped around and lodged on the PCL and got stuck. So it felt tight, right? So we started rehabbing, and a few weeks later, he's getting better, but he still has some instability. So Doc says, okay, well, it's been 2 weeks. Let's go ahead and shoot a picture. Hey,
Yep.
and I learned from that. But back then, oh man, I was torn up. And one other thing I would give myself advice for: have boundaries. And I do that now. I tell all my mentees that now. Go ahead and set boundaries and stick to them, and that's okay. You can't be everything for everybody all the time.
I agree. I think that is huge advice. What has been the most influential resource you have found in your career?
Oh man, relationships.
I kind of figured that's where it was going,
Yeah,
but I wanted to give you the opportunity to answer the question.
no doubt, bro.
Perfect.
Relationships. That's simple. I could go further into it, but I think that's what the whole talk's been about.
I think that sums it up. Absolutely. If you could go and change or eliminate one thing, and that could be a modality, a common practice, a mindset, or something else that you come up with in the field of athletic training, what would it be?
Mindset. Mindset for starters. And it's layered, right? So I would change mindset. The first layer of the mindset I would change is let's not pigeonhole ourselves, right? Again, I talk to a lot of people and I cringe sometimes when someone tells me I would never. Don't say that. You're pigeonholing yourself
Yep.
because that I would never might be just what you need,
Sure.
you know? Mindset. Let's stop being so negative all the time, right? Now, don't get it twisted. I think there's a lot of things that the association could do better, and let's let them work on it. You know, I'm working with BOC with some stuff now. There's some things BOC's working on for the profession, but and it's okay to put your feelings out there. It's okay to ask questions, but when we just straight up say this is crap, what's my money going towards? Yada 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 yada. If you got all those issues without any resolutions, shut up. I mean, I'm gonna call it a bean, right? If you got all those issues and you got nothing to bring to the table to help, you voicing your issues aren't helping, right?
Right.
But if you have an issue and you say, "Hey, have you ever thought about?" or "Hey, I have an idea. Let's talk."
Right.
But if you say, "I don't like," and I say, "Okay, what would you do about it?" I don't know. I just don't like it. Stop saying that.
Yeah, I've gone. I think that's a great point. I used to be, and I've evolved in my own leadership. Like if you don't like something, come with a solution. Okay.
Right.
I like I've kind of gone back from that to more of what you said, like come with an idea or some thoughts on it, because you may not be able to come up with the solution because you're not
Mhm.
working with all the information, and it would be not right for me to assume that you would be able to come up with it because there's so many other things that you just don't know. But
Yep.
yeah, again, if you're not coming at least with something to potentially add to it, well, now we're just yelling. And I
That's it.
totally agree with you of the, you know, our profession, and I'm sure this is other professions, and this is the only one I, pay attention to, obviously, is like, we've got so many issues outside of the profession that we need to address, but we can't seem to get out of our own way on so many things within the profession that how are
Yeah.
we ever going to get there? And that could, yeah,
We could go all day on that one, bro.
yes, yeah, and maybe we will have to at some point.
And and there's a few more mindsets, but I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna
No,
leave
that's a good one. I agree wholeheartedly.
pigeonholing and being negative, man. I don't
Yeah.
like that.
Final question: what does being an athletic trainer mean to you?
Jeez, the world, the world. This is, man. I've had so many different experiences, right? That places I've been, people I've seen, people I've met. I mean, and it baffles me how folks will look at me, look at my career, look at read my bio, look at the things that I've done, and they'll be, you don't want to go to a D1 school, you don't want to go back to the NFL. I'm like, first of all, why do you think that? First, I'm not unhappy. Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not unhappy. I'm very happy. Right. Let's start there. But it's like, again, they look at these high profile jobs and they think that you hadn't made it until you do this. And I'm like, that is not the thing. Like, I've been in that ranking before. It was great. It was my ultimate goal. I did that at 21, 22. I got a piece of what that life feels like and looks like. I left that because of my family, right? And I can't even say quality of life, because not that it was quality of life for me. I just didn't see my family.
Sure.
I had a 4-year-old daughter that I saw, I want to say once in like 2 months. And the 2 times I was able to leave and I saw my family was only because my mom got sick. And who wants to do it? I had a 28-hour day. We loaded the bus, went to the airport, flew to DC, played the Redskins, loaded the bus. I got the call from my sister after the game on the way to the bus, because I missed the call during the game, right? So I get the call. We go back to the airport, fly back to Atlanta, get off the bus, get in my car, drive straight back home to Augusta to check on my mom. Well, I was tired as crap, but I couldn't show that because she's in the hospital.
Right.
So I got to go make sure all is well, right? And then because of that trip, I see my daughter for a few hours, right? Then I pack my bag. The next day, I drive back to Flowery Branch, right? I didn't like, no, that's not the life at that time for me. Now, if I was single, didn't have any kids, probably would have stayed, right?
Yep.
But everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that. And in that time of my life, my season was to get out of there, come here, have a little more quality of life, work life balance, and be there for my family. And that's what I've been doing for the last, I don't know how many years. And people say, well, have you not thought of leaving? I mean, I had some opportunities to go other places that it wasn't the opportunity that I wanted.
Yep.
Right. And well, they didn't offer enough money? One thing you don't have to worry about Rob. He can't be bought. It's not about the money.
Sure.
Right? Don't get me wrong. We have to pay bills. I tell people this all the time. They laugh. I love paying bills. They're like, what? No, I love being able to pay my bills.
Yep.
Like, that gives me a sense of like, I'm a man. Like,
Yep.
That's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Right? People laugh at that, but I'm like, no, I love being able to pay, and I pay my bills. My bills are paid. You know, everything's paid for. I'm fine. Like, my kids have clothes, we eat, they go to school. I'm fine. So it's never that. But I'm happy. Right? So me being able to do all the things I've done in this profession, you know, I've been to Alaska, like, and it's from this place, right?
Yep.
You know, went to Maine twice, Colorado twice, that like California, been a lot. I wouldn't have been able to do that this way without being here and doing what I do, right? And meeting the people that I've met, and you know, it's just, I don't know, it means the world to me, because I'm able to still practice medicine and be around athletics. The two things I love, things I absolutely love. That's it, the world.
Perfect. Before we sign off, if people wanted to follow you, get in touch, what is the best way for them to connect up with you?
All right. So it's funny you asked it that way, because I would say, hey, shoot me a text, call. Like, I'm that person, man. I don't mind giving my number out, but I ain't gonna do that right now. So Instagram, I am ROB_DSR. That's Rob D Senior on Instagram. And then on Twitter, I'm ROBDSR33, Rob D Senior 33.
Got it.
I think I'm on Facebook too, but I don't think nobody really use that no more.
Fair enough. Well, I just wanted to say thanks for being on. I personally took a lot out of this, and I'm already going to throw it out there that we will have to do a follow-up conversation at some point in the future, hopefully maybe in person, you know, when a convention happens and COVID's not there. But the insight and the takeaways, truly appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, man. Like I said earlier, brother, it's an honor and a pleasure. Glad to be able to put my voice on this thing, and, you know, to be able to put it out there in the atmosphere. Hopefully somebody can learn something from it. If one person gets one idea or, you know, something they can use, it's all for the good for me. And if anybody takes that information I just sent out to follow me and hit me up, just know I'm gonna hit you back. I'm a real person, right? So, but man, I appreciate you doing this, having this platform for the profession, period. You know, whether or not I ever got on is awesome, man. You know, I think
Appreciate that.
this is what we need. You know, we need stuff like this. And I applaud you for going out and making that happen. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you and appreciate that. And like I said, we're lucky because I mean, we've gotten to meet so many cool people that you just probably wouldn't have connected up with and had some really good conversations. So,
right.
All right, sir. Well, appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Blessings, bro.